We'll be done with one part, and I'll be ready for a coffee break, that's for sure. And knowing we got 6 months of protection, it means probably Vlad won't have to. You may think you can't make this up. We wake up this morning, there's another treezilla going down. You may even hear it right on the background here. There's chainsaws and grinders and everything going on back there. Anyway, I have to plan out a very special day. I want to get some of Vlad's parts done. I'm trying to do it a little bit at a time because it's really taxing on my arm. They have to be done by hand. And it's supposed to clear up this afternoon. Not clear up, it's supposed to go up into the 50s. 50s. My God, it's going to be a summer day. I don't even know if I'm going to wear my my underwear. It's going to be so warm and toasty. Anyway, what I did plan to do after I rub some noses and change some battery temp. Listen to that. There's not going to be a tree left in Rutherford. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. So anyway, I didn't want to belabor this point too long. I want to get started on Vlad's stuff, and I want to get a ride in this afternoon, and maybe we'll have one of those days to remember. Now, I always do that thing in the morning when I rub the noses of the bikes, and that's to honor Dallas. And I always do, this is really funny, I rub my hand on the rim, the hand buffed rims. Oh, now I'm ready to go to work and to get Vlad's parts every bit as nice as that rim, that fairing. Ooh, I know I'm a perv. I don't know what's going on here. I'm falling in love with motorcycles in my old age. Listen to that shit. Will you stop with that chainsaw? I can hear it. My God, and it's... Oh my God. I'm so happy when we had that really crappy weather. A couple of rainy days I spent detailing out the bikes. Basically all the bikes are cleaned up and ready for the summer riding season. And it looks like the weather is changing a lot earlier than we thought. And even better news, I thought in the next couple of days, I keep wanting to take a day that I can't ride and do the assembly on this. I did all the cleanup. We're pretty much ready to assemble. And I thought if nothing else, I can get the forks on, the wheels on, and I can just move it around the garage. That'd be a nice thing to get done. And with all those chainsaws going over there, Karen told me get ready to start working on the garden. We already have the waterfalls cooking along, and we got, as Midley well knows, the spring algae bloom has already started. Oh, that chainsaw, it's giving me a headache. So early in the morning here, it looks like we're going to have a nice day. So I'll split the day up between working on Vlad's parts, and by that time my arm will be shot, and possibly having a ride in the afternoon. Should be a nice day. I think even my birds hate the sound of that chainsaw. Boy, you can only listen to that for so many minutes and then you get a headache. You know, it's funny, you can even hear it inside the house. It's unbelievable. This guy, J.P. Tree, he must be the richest guy in town. He's been working in our neighborhood all winter. So in my mind, I made a little master plan of what I think would be a good thing to do. I had no idea how I wanted to do this, but as I thought it through, I've been oogling these parts for so long, I'm ready to get them back on a motorcycle. And it's been fun. Every part of this project has exceeded what my original thought was. I think once it's all assembled, it's going to be just better than I could have ever imagined. But what I thought would be a good plan, and this is not really a critical thing, but I think I'll give it a try, that when I go to assemble this, I'll do the forks, the front end, and get the wheels on it first, because then I can move the bike around. See, it's in an awkward position back there. That it's good because I wanted to have it when I was working on it, that it wouldn't be in my way when I was doing Chris's bike or who knows what else out there, even polishing up my own bikes. But every part of the project, if you could see the finish on this, how to finish, and of course anybody that's a painter knows black is the hardest color to paint. You've got to get it really, really right, and the carbon fiber stuff. And believe me, Vlad, your stuff is going to be every bit as nice as that. That's got at least 10 coats of clear on it, and all hand buffed. And we will be doing some of that this morning as soon as I have my coffee. So we have Vlad's APRILLA parts. There's 70s. We got 2 buffed the other day before my arm gave out, and because of the unique shape and all the curves involved, really, it's really easier for me to do them by hand than try to use the machine or gouge them up by using the buffer. But I think the way this is going to work, I think I can do the fender with the buffer, that's for sure. But these parts that are have a nice reverse curve and a valley and an angle, when you get the buffer in there, you just make a mess. So I'm looking at it and I'm just thinking, now, what do I feel like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo here, what do I feel like doing? Well, let me see if I can get those 2 parts buffed today, and that'll be 4. I'll really feel like I got something accomplished then. Now, because we have so much clear on these parts, we really have, there's probably the equivalent of 10 coats, maybe more. But you can always see, because they're carbon fiber, you can always see the weave will eventually come through a little bit. So that's why we put the extra clear on, so we can constantly, or many times, go over this a year later, a month later, and go back and rebuff it out. If you have the minimum amount of clear, even like some of the high-end parts that they sell, they only put the minimum amount of clear on because clear is expensive. So by putting on the extra clear, we have the option of years from now rebuffing this, resanding it, and doing it over and over again. That's the whole idea of doing this with a real high-quality finish like that. And the other thing, now these parts have dried even 1 more extra day than the first 2 I did. So these should go a little bit easier anyway. We'll find out. So to do this part of the job, and we'll do the first part in real time, as we always do, because we always have new subscribers basically every day. Soapy water, a couple of drops of Dawn in some warm water in a dish pan, and some 2000 grit Indasa sandpaper. And this has been the system that's worked well for me. Now again, the difference between a sprayed finish, and there's a lot of people would love that finish, but there's a level of quality above this, and that it would require sanding this totally flat with the 2000 grit, which is what I'm going to do some of in real time here, just to show how long this takes. Now, normally, if this were a flat part, a hood of a car or a whatever, that hugger, you could do a giant part of it with a buffer. But in a case like this, it's awkward because you're hitting, the buffer is constantly bumping against things. So, and rather than take a chance, we're going to put a gouge in the part. It's just easier for me to do these parts by hand. And I can usually do about 2 hours of buffing before my arm starts getting tired. And of course, I used to be able to do a lot more. But, you know, as Karen says over and over, you're not the man you used to be, and you weren't that good to begin with. Sylvester Stallone never had me audition for a body double job, that's for sure, or Rocky or whatever. But anyway, well, I'm just glad we're not listening to that chainsaw. I was listening to that for an hour over breakfast. That's unbelievable. Our neighborhood Rutherford is known as the borough of trees, and so many, I guess, are in need of trimming and treezilla-ing. I don't know. All right, so rather than belabor the point here, let me just show. I always like to show it in real time. We can show other stuff and fast forward, but people like to see, at least I do, once I dry this off. Okay, now we can show and what that flat, real time, no camera cuts, that's what it has to look like. And a really high quality finish is going to start by being perfectly flat. Then to buff this, even by hand or by machine, relatively easy. If I try to buff this, I'll be buffing all day and it'll never be flat. It'll always be just like a little bit of an orange peely thing. So it's a very high quality thing to do that, and I think it's worth the time and effort. Now, just as an example for anybody new to the channel, I have buffed the wheels the last 3 years of motorcycling. The restorations, I've buffed all the wheels, and I'm so glad I did, as I showed when I'm out there flipping battery chargers and cleaning the bikes and whatever. I always feel like it was time well invested. And the beautiful thing is, once you're done, because I don't flip bikes and trade them in every 2 weeks and try to make money on the sale and everything, what happens is I will have these bikes till the day I die. And there's no magic secret to how to do this. It's just a lot of labor, and when you have small, complicated parts like that, I find it easier to do them by hand. It takes a little more time, but there's almost no chance you'll damage the part. Now on these parts, there's always little edges and little corners, and you got to be so careful you don't go through, or else you got to respray to clear. So I'm really taking my time on all these corners and edges, and it's just this just is the time-consuming thing. And when you're done, the good news is when you're done, boy, yeah, people that know paint can tell right away. That whole part is flat sanded now, and we're ready to see how that paint is going to buff out. This is always the most challenging part of the job. So the material that I use from this point on, 4CR, 8065, and then a good coat of flitz, and we should be protected and polished. That should last, they say, 6 months. I'm not sure it's 6, maybe it's 5.5. I don't know. But this really works well on my motorcycles, keeping them from rusting and corroding. And you can see how the bike's made it through the winter with minimum cleanup. And that's always one of my goals in the spring. Now the easiest way I know, just spread the material around when you're going to do a hand buff out. Let it just dry up a little bit. Pick a spot, and I always like to show this by hand. I know a lot of my friends that watch this channel, they're modelers, and they know all about buffing. Because that's just one of the skills you have to know, or you should know anyway. But anyway, I like to smear that around. I've got a little piece of microfiber, and it doesn't matter what spot you pick. It's not going to be any easier or worse. I'll do one on real time. It usually takes a minute. You can sit there and be bored, but you can see where that buffer could do some damage. So I'm always very careful here. Since these parts belong to an APRILLA MONDAIL, I don't know, I'm not familiar with exotic bikes at all. So, but Vlad has told me, you know, that these are hard parts to get, either new, I guess, impossible, and he wound up getting these, and that's why it's worth doing the rejuvenation on them. And for sure, I would be willing to bet when he's done with this, he's going to have the best APRILLA MONDAIL, because he really is a fanatic just like I am. He really does want to have nice stuff. But anyway, it's not like that's a contest or anything, but I always like to show this. There's just no secret to doing it. I wish there was a secret. I wish there was something you could just go and get a mouse to come out and put microfibers on his feet and do it or something, but unfortunately that really has never happened for me. I'm the mouse. That's the way it always works out. But anyway, yeah, over the years, over many years, over 50, it might be closer to 60 now, I can remember starting with red 3M compound and white 3M compound, and every one of the products years ago were nothing like what we have now. And we didn't have these orbital buffers. We had electric drills, and you'd put burn marks and things, and but the end result was, if you did it by hand, you didn't have any of that. You wound up having these big muscular arms. You almost could tell who'd buffed out their airplane or their motorcycle or whatever. And buffing out acrylic lacquer was really challenging. That talk about paint that had to dry. Sometime it had to dry. In my case, because I'd put on so many coats, it had to dry a month before it hardened up. But hey, we're going to show this right now. Nothing secret about it. I try to do it in a way that it might be a little boring, but the ultimate thing is you can do it. There's no part of this that you can't do. You don't need, in a case of hand buffing, you don't even need machines. Or if the motorcycle was in one piece, you could just do a little piece every day like a checkerboard. Let's see if I can show that. I'm not sure I can. In fact, you know what I want to do? I don't know, because I want to do it in real time. I want to take this off the tripod. I always find this to be a little bit better way, so people don't think I'm trying to do something fake here. That is a really nice shine. And in fact, let's bring it over to here, and you can see here's Vlad's part, Wendy's part. Vlad, and you don't think I would do it? I would make Vlad's part any better than mine? And that doesn't even have the flitz on it yet. The flitz, look at this, you can see the wheel. Yeah, I always like that. You can see the gold on the wheel reflecting in here. I'm not sure that's the biggest thing of all, but sure, you can see the wheel. But anyway, I want to go back to the table. I try to show this in a way that makes sense for people that really want to do this. This is not a thing of like, you know, for somebody that just wants to have a, they'll settle for the factory finish. I try to explain this in a way for people that really want to have the best they can possibly have. So now it's just a question of toughing it out, get the whole part buffed, and then probably have a coffee break. This you don't see it on the video, but this is time consuming. Well, we're ready for the flits here. That's about as buffed and polished and hand buffed finish as you can have. And the final step, the flits. Once this is just flitzed up, we'll be done with one part, and I'll be ready for a coffee break, that's for sure. And knowing we got 6 months of protection, it means probably Vlad won't have to wax these parts all summer. I think he waxes a bike like I do every day. I wonder if Vlad rubs noses like Dallas and I do. I know Luciano does. He goes out and talks to the motorcycles in the morning, in Italian too. Well, he talks to the Ducatis in Italian. I'm not sure he talks to the Chinese bike in Chinese or whatever. So, anyway, this is the definition of a labor of love, and there's no way around it. If you really want to have this stuff, it's simple. Get ready for some exercise. And once that flits is hand polished, oh man, you can see your hand in that. Oh boy, that is really, really nice. That is really going to add a nice touch to the Aprilia. Okay, the other part we're going to try to do today, and I'm sure we'll get them both done, because the day is going very well. And these are parts that are time consuming, but it's very rewarding when you see the result. You see the result of that finish. And to me, that finish is the whole reason for doing this. If you were to say I like a dull finish, and some people do, yeah. Some people like anchovies on their pizza. Yeah, I don't know what to say, but I know what I like. I like shiny stuff. You get back from a ride, you wipe the bike off clean. When you have flat black parts or flat paint or whatever, it's like wiping off a piece of sandpaper. So, and then there are people that don't wipe the bike off at all, so I guess that's okay too. So, it's all whatever you enjoy, and I can only share what I enjoy. It would be hard for me to share my enjoyment of having rusted out bikes that aren't taken care of. I just would have trouble doing that. So anyway, I'm going to get this part sanded and start the hand buffing. It's just the time melts away as you do this. It takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of effort. That's why I can only do at my age and at my point in life, I can really only do 2 or 3 hours of this a day, or else the next day I'm in a sling. Okay, we're flat sanded and we're ready to start the buffing operation. I'm not sure it could be a lot more fun than this. We'll get this part done. And Karen just checked the temperature. It is coming up on 50 degrees. I will be really looking forward to getting a ride this afternoon. And my arm will be plenty tired. I hope I can steer the motorcycle with one arm. Anyway, this is just one of those jobs that when you get to the point where you're coming down a home stretch, it's very, very rewarding. And there's just no substitute for it that I've ever found in my life. I watched a show on Netflix. I've mentioned this many times. A show on Netflix called Happy, and it's a very interesting show. It brings up a lot of good points, but one of the points they made was that to be happy, one of the ingredients you have to be truly happy is you have to do some productive work. And to me, this is my answer to productive work, and maybe it's why I'm happy. Now we're ready for the flits. Boy, this was a long time coming. This really took a long time, but wow, when we're done, this will be really nice, believe me. And this is always the final touch. And actually, there's a Flitz ball. I have one, but you couldn't use it on a part like this realistically. Now, maybe you could, I'm thinking, if you had a helper to hold apart, but when you try to hold it and hold apart, and then if it catches an edge, the problem is it goes flying across the room, and it's just not practical. This way, it's pretty idiot-proof how to do it, and it just takes a little bit more effort, a little bit more time, and there's no secret how to do it. And you think of it this way, even I can do it. I think we can count that as a really nice part. Yeah, that really came out nice. 4 parts to go, and my arm is shot. Now maybe tomorrow or the next day we'll be able to finish these. There's actually, because this part, I can use the buffer on that, most of that part. One of the other parts is relatively small. I think we got one more day of buffing, and one more, unless we have a relief pitcher. Or Luciano will come over and buff for me, or Turbo Steve. So we got more than half of VLADS parts done, and it's a beautiful day, and we are going to head out on the open road. And this is why I love having 90-degree valves, like the one we put on Chris's front wheel. Wow, that makes it so convenient to check it. Now if we didn't have to check it and we were up here, so convenient. Worth every penny. These are curvy girls, by the way.
couple of months from now, we're going to have some leaves on these trees. Wow. We need some leaves on these trees, desperately.
So it is pretty funny. It was really a cold ride, and the sun really never came out, but still better than no ride at all. I get home from the ride, Karen comes to the window and says, "Do you want a cup of hot coffee?" Thinking, oh my God, is the Pope a Muslim? Do bears go shopping in the woods? Well, of course I want it. I want a gallon of coffee. Oh. The good old GS never disappoints, never. I wish I had 3 more of them, and 3 more rear ends to ride them at the same time. Anyway, it was great. We had a good time. We made good use of a day that it was supposed to rain this afternoon, and looks like we beat the rain. Anyway, hope you enjoyed sharing the carbon fiber, Sharon VLADS project, Chris's project, Wendy's project, Turbo Steve's project, Glenn's project, Luciano's project. My God, I should run for president. Anyway, thanks for watching.